I'm George Popi, and this is Digging In, a show where I make someone dinner and we talk about things. This week's guest is Eric Sabbag. He is a writer and a producer. He's worked on a lot of cool things, so let's dig in.
So can we look directly at the cameras in this show?
You can do whatever you want.
Cool.
I'm very much
awesome.
like that.
Thank you for dinner.
Thank you for coming. It's
Cheers.
been a long time coming.
Yes.
We've been talking about this for 2-3 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting.
I know.
And this is way more impressive than I expected. So
that's usually what I go.
Haven't eaten yet though.
You say that and the food is horrible.
Right.
I feel like I make that joke so often on this show where I'm like, this food's horrible. At some point, people might catch on that, I'm actually not a bad.
Maybe it's not that bad, right?
Yeah. I do kind of want to ask, like, how did you end up getting into writing? Because I know, again, I was telling you a little bit early before the cameras were rolling.
That's really good, Ben.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm not killing you yet. But yeah, I did some LinkedIn stalking and then saw your whole history of like how you started. So like I know like writing wasn't something that was like necessarily in your job title for a while. So like how did you stumble into it?
Yeah, good question. Good research. So there is stuff
up
there.
So like
there is stuff up there. Damn it.
I know.
Gotta take that LinkedIn thing down.
Yeah, as a researcher, you should probably do research on yourself.
Yeah, I should. I find it frustrating to do research on myself because I find that it's just like,
feels so boring.
Like IMDb is the worst. It's the worst because it's just like, what is that? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that isn't neither here nor there. But your question about writing, yeah, that was a good question. So writing was always something like, when I was young, when I was a kid, it was probably the only thing that I ever did really well.
Really?
Yeah, and it was one of those things that, like, so every now and then, it was pretty rare, but like I actually went to French school.
Yeah.
But every now and then, a teacher would say, hey, that was really well written, or I would always do well in English class or on essays in English, right, and things like this. And so I got to a point, by the time I entered university, I entered in journalism, and I had gotten at that point to the point where I realized that if I had to guess, it's what I do best. And I didn't pursue it back then. I always took it for granted. I was like, okay, well, yeah, sure, I can write well, but you can't make any money writing, and I don't even know what I'd be writing about, so there must be other things I can do well. And that whole mentality, like I was raised on a mentality of look for your flaws and try to improve them, as opposed to look for your qualities and try to excel at them.
That's a very immigrant mentality.
Right. And both our parents are of that mentality. I'm assuming yours are, but mine definitely had that mentality. It's like, don't dream, like become a professional and whatever you're not good at, work on that.
Like you need to be good at everything. Like
at everything, competent at everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like for example, I was really bad in sports, and I was definitely forced into a lot of sports.
And like you're wearing a Yankees hat right now.
No, I love sports, and like I got fairly good at a couple of them, but it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm not an athlete, and yet arts and writing was never really encouraged. I guess probably because like how are you gonna ever make a living doing that?
Yeah, the classic line is like how it's like there's a whole industry based off of everyone working on using these talents. Yeah, it just It's just because like it's not a clear path.
Not a clear path, and I think in many ways our industry is a very difficult one. Much more difficult than say being a doctor in many ways. Like a doctor, you have your job, and even if it's crazy hours and high stress, it's still well paid and consistent. Yeah. And with us, it's like really valleys and peaks, and if you're lucky, some people just have valleys,
that's always rough.
Yeah, and no one really has only peaks. Like it's very rare.
Yeah, it's
like Spielberg, but
not even because it's like it's also like there's a point where if it's only peaks, you probably start to see different levels of what like peaks and valleys are. Because I'm sure that he judges it like based off of like what his last movie, how well it did. For sure. Because he's had flops as well. Because it all becomes contextualized, where there's no baseline normal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough. So for all, I mean, it can be good advice, but at the same time. So anyway, it's a really long way of saying that I ended up not focusing on that, doing a whole bunch of other stuff, kind of searching for what else I could do good or well. Turns out I can't do anything else well. So here I am.
I love that you started off with
Thanks for the food.
Hey, happy to feed you.
First meal I've had in 3 days.
I feel like that's not true.
Oh, well, thanks. Now you're saying I'm fat. I appreciate that.
No, you're eating well. You're staying healthy. Someone looks at me when I'm like the age I am right now.
Yep.
And they're like, you have no idea what you're doing. Like,
right.
This is the way it's been, like, we've been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Like, we shouldn't just uproot everything because, like, you have this idea. I'm like, it's frustrating because I'm like, yes, but, like, you're paying me to be the expert here. Like, let me be, like, the expert and tell you what my honest opinion is because I'm not trying to hurt you in any term. But, yeah, it comes across horrible sometimes. And, like, I think some people think I'm arrogant because of that. I'm sure.
Of course.
But yeah, it's because like
I had the same problem actually 2 years ago, and then someone had a talking to. I was talked to about the problem, in the sense that it was explained to me that because in the first 2 seasons I knew more than anyone else about the stories that we were shooting, right?
Yeah.
And I was on set all the time. So I was this weird kind of authority figure, but I didn't have any title at all. Yeah. Like I was technically a script supervisor. But I sometimes had to tell a director that he was doing something wrong. Of course. Script supervisors don't tell directors that you're doing something wrong, right? And
God forbid.
The way that I was doing it was a little bit like you, where it's like, hey, this is not the way we got to do it this way. And I wasn't apologetic about it. It was like, this is a fact. This is how we have to do it. I'm sorry, guys, but that's what it is. And
because it's not emotional, it's business. It's just like
exactly. But I was rubbing people the wrong way.
Of course.
I was rubbing people that were above me the wrong way, and so I ended up having to shift my attitude, and it was very beneficial, even though it was counterintuitive, because it made, I think in any industry, in order to move up, the people that you answer to they can't feel threatened by you. So it's like this delicate tightrope walk where you have to like really check your ego at the door. And depending on who you're dealing with, like in our company, we're very lucky. I find the people that I have to deal with, I'm so happy about. And that makes it easier for sure. But no matter who it is, if you want to move up, you have to somehow almost like play that political game. And it sucks because I'm not political, and I'm guessing you're not political.
God, no.
And I know that like logic, it just makes sense. And yet, if you do it, I find that like the best leaders do it anyway. And still get to that same point. Like you're trying to get from point A to point B, and you're like, look, there's the road, right? But the person that's gonna okay that needs to be kind of sort of guided through a different path to get to the same conclusion. Or you need to be able to say, okay, I've said what I think is right, and I have to let them figure out that that's right over time, rather than to say, why aren't we doing this? I don't know if that applies to you, but
yeah, it definitely does. Like there's things, and it's like one of those. Because it's like, I think where the interesting thing that I can definitely take from that is like certain, like it's the same way like when you teach someone, like some people you show them visually, some people you have to say it, some people you have to let them like physically do it. Everyone kind of will take a different path to learn something, and you need to know who you're communicating to so that you're communicating effectively. But yeah, the politics is like something I can't swallow too well. Because it's interesting that like you saw yourself as like you wanted to be a writer for so long and then you didn't, and then like now you are.
Yeah, right, exactly right.
Like it's like I almost want to be like, would you like if looking back, would you have changed anything like your career path, or do you think it was like you needed to kind of not be a writer to like go through the entire experiences of doing different things.
I think I feel like there's a lot of benefits that I gain from having done all these other things and now come back to it. There's no doubt in my mind that it helps my writing, and it helps a lot of things, like my attitude at work. Like, for example, as you were saying, the way that I am in a meeting, for example. I don't think I would be that way if I was writing from day one. But on the other side of that, it does feel very much now like I don't have enough. There'll never be enough time for me to write all the things I want to write and see if they all get made, or published, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, like I lost time. But I try not to think about that. Would I do it differently? It's possible. I think I would have, at least in hindsight, I would have probably focused more on my writing while doing those other things. Like I think if I would have kept more of a linear focus on the writing, I could still have done a lot of these things, but at the time it was like I wasn't doing that at all.
Yeah.
I was just, I was reading a lot, but I wasn't trying to write things or anything like that. I did actually write a book. At one point I was living in Korea. And I traveled for 10 years. I had a backpack. And at one point I was in Korea, and I wrote a book while I was there. Yeah. And I wrote about half the book, fiction. And I lost it.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Long story, but like all my stuff was seized.
Yeah. Okay,
in
so
Korea, and I never got it back. And I never backed it up. Like
I'm sure it's still in your brain though. Like.
Oh, it is. I then wrote a synopsis of it, which was shorter, but like at least so I knew I would have that. And it's still there, and I'll probably end up rewriting it at some point. It's been hard to revisit it because it's lost, but yeah.
Sure, like it's just like the memory of.
It's almost like you want to work on something new. Like that's kind of the point of creativity, as opposed to revisiting something old. So I have to get to. I think I'm getting to the point where the message that I want to tell through that story is evolving enough that I'm willing to revisit this, because it's like a kind of a cool structure for a story, and there's a very distinct message to get from it.
Gotcha.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I'll revisit it at some point.
Cool.
But yeah, so that was the only writing that I did. Other than that, I wasn't writing. And I never in a million years thought that would have been very good, But now I kind of wish that I had it. I'd love to read it.
Just to look back
see
on
what it is.
Yeah. Because now it's almost, because it's lost, it's just this ethereal thing. You can't even look back and be like, was this even good or bad? It's in your mind as this thing that was lost.
Yeah, that's partly it, yeah. And also, I think the last few years have definitely given me a lot of confidence in my writing, which I don't think I necessarily had before. And my whole attitude has been, for a little while now, I just really want to see how far I can take it. So I'll take on, like I wrote a comedy, which is maybe going to get made, we'll see. But it's with a few, it's going through some interesting things.
Awesome.
And there's all kinds of other stuff I want to write. Like I have an idea for a Black Mirror type series, but it's not Black Mirror.
But you don't want to do like one episode in the anthology?
Of Black Mirror?
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to.
I was gonna say, like, if they called you up, be like, hey, we want you.
Of course, they would never, but I would love to. That would be, I've thought of writing a spec script for Black Mirror, but then I was doing some research on it, and it seems like it's probably not the best idea, just because Black Mirror is basically written by the same guy, like every single episode. Yeah, Charlie Booker, I think his name
I
is.
didn't realize it was
And
just one
think
writer.
he's credited as the writer or co-writer in every episode.
Wow.
So, and the truth is, if you're going to write a Black Mirror spec script, just write your own script, because it's its own idea anyway. Yeah. Right? So, yeah. But that's probably my favorite series.
It's a great series.
That's probably my favorite.
What is your favorite episode? Really put you on the spot.
If I had to pick one?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
One of them is definitely the one where like you're recording everything. I think it was in the first season, episode 3, I think.
Yeah.
It's one of the British ones where it starts off with like they're at a lawyer's meeting, and then you can go back and visit the audio video record of everything you've seen and heard.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking
Yes,
about?
I do.
And then like he gets into his wife's to figure out if she was cheating on him, and like it's like all this twisty, turny, crazy stuff. I just thought that's a perfect Black Mirror episode in my view, because it's so realistic and it's.
Well, that's always a cringy thing where it's a lot of what they're writing now is like it could happen easily in 10 years.
Yes.
Which is scary.
Right. Do you think we're in trouble?
No, I don't. With all this stuff, I think we're scared of the future, but because like it's new, but we've always managed to survive technology upheavals. I'm thinking the same way. You know, people literally when like the weave, during the Industrial Revolution, they figured out a way to make a mechanical weave press. I forget the exact terminology. I'm lost my mind right now. But there was this whole revolution from like traditional weave makers that like they went in, like they destroyed them because they're like, this is like the worst thing ever.
Sure.
That's just always going to happen. I do want to think that 99% of humans are great, like positive people that are doing like have good intentions. So I think the technology will help us. Are you going to see insane changes? Yeah. I think.
What about AI?
AI, I think we're going to merge with AI before it becomes an issue even.
So we'll be part of it.
Yeah. It's like the next human evolution step, probably.
But what about the idea that if we do manage to create an AI that's smarter than us, a general intelligence, then...
It's one of those things I don't like. Either we're already kind of connected with them, where it's like we've supplemented our bodies with the AI that like we're coexisting, and like humans are AI and AI are humans. It's not like it's a singularity, or like it's if like we don't do that and AI just like exists by itself. It's like it becomes a her situation where it's like they're just gods and like we're just ants, so they don't give a shit about us.
So then we could be existential. Could be
a threat. I don't think it's a threat. It's like
why? How would you say that though?
Because like, do we go around like actually trying to actively destroy species? Not really.
Well, we would if we could.
Do we?
They're already talking about doing this. There's a. I can't remember exactly how it works, but there's a way that you can implant a DNA, a certain strand of DNA that kills off, like let's say mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So they'll kill themselves off essentially within like a generation or something.
Yeah, but that's reproductive. So it's like we can change our reproductive systems. But it's like it's not changing like our day-to-day life necessarily, or maybe it is.
But what if the AI determines that we're not worth having around?
Then we'll figure it out at that point.
We will? They'll be way smarter than we are.
They will, but I mean, as in the sense like, it's also like a problem like.
It's very optimistic.
It is, because like it's also like we're not there yet to worry about it. So it's like if I don't
shouldn't we worry about it? I'm putting you on the spot now.
You are.
Podcast.
No, it's great.
I think we should.
You think?
Well, it's gonna be too late when it's done.
Of course, it's one of those things where I am not going to spend my time worrying about it because I'm not right now in AI space.
Sure.
And like
sure,
I have no.
Neither am I.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, me worrying about it.
But right now, nobody's worrying about it.
No, people are worrying about it.
Not really.
There's a lot. I literally just had a conversation with someone that works in AI.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be fucked." He literally made a Terminator joke, and I was like, "Great." So like, hey, like when I talked to him, I was like, "Hey, make sure that this doesn't happen."
But there's no like, as far as I know, there's no like body that's in charge of creating like sort of standards that are going to make sure that whatever whatever the AI is created is in a box that we can shut off if we have to, or do you know what I mean?
There actually is. As far as I remember, there is a group of like high tech, like Silicon Valley types that started OpenAI, which is so that the idea is that you actually are making AI open source so that we can
Sure,
pull the trigger.
I think it's Elon Musk.
It's Elon Musk and a bunch of others. Elon Musk is very much in that sphere. He's by far the most vocal in the group because Elon Musk is vocal.
I think he's also terrified of AI, if I'm not mistaken.
He is terrified of AI. Same with, I think, Eric Schmidt is terrified of AI. A lot of the big guys are really terrified about it. Rightfully
but you're
so.
not.
I'm not
I'm
because
just
it's more like I think they're worried for me, and I'm okay with that at this point. Again.
Yeah, I know, I get that.
Yeah. There's only so much I can worry about in a day.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't actively worry about it either, but
You're playing devil's advocate, and I like it.
somewhat. I've actually heard that our most likely, I can't remember who it was, I was listening to a podcast about this, but the most likely sort of advancement in AI, like basically general intelligence AI, the most likely scenario where that would happen is actually in animals. That we'd manage to make animals smarter than us, just through experimentation and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Is pretty interesting.
So we're going Planet of the Apes type
theory.
deal.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that's, according to this AI expert, and I can't remember his name, the most likely AI scenario where we get surpassed by not synthetic. Yeah.
Humor is a good way to be able to talk about things that are serious, because if we talk about them seriously, then we're just going to get depressed and sad. Whereas if we talk about it in a way that we're kind of acknowledging that this is inherently funny and we can laugh about it, it makes it easier to talk about things. Again, I think some of the best journalism right now that's been going on has been from the late night hosts.
That's the only place I get my news. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even watch the news. I watch Real Time with Bill Maher. I watch Last Week Tonight. Then if I'm really feeling newsy, I'll get into the YouTube clips of Colbert and the Daily Show and those. Like, that's literally the only place I get my news.
Yeah.
I don't even care about the other stuff because it's just too frustrating to watch.
It is.
Yeah, they're good. They summarize it quickly and they make it palatable because at least it's poking fun where it should.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue with journalism right now is, CNN, NBC, CBS, even Fox. They have to treat everything like it's real. Like they can't just be like, this is fucking nuts.
Yeah, and not only that, but they're so, in a weird way, they're so easy to manipulate because they have so much time to fill, and they're like dogs running around in circles, chasing their own tails, and then every now and then they'll throw them a bone, right? And they'll be like, oh, okay, and now they're doing this again. Like, and it's hard to watch.
It is. It's a circle jerk.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely enjoy not being in that. As I sometimes I don't know if I'm a journalist or a writer, but I'm a bit of both these days. So, but yeah, like the ability, like one thing I love about our shows, we get to do such a deep dive into incredible stories.
Yeah.
Like they're tragic, but they're really incredible. And when I read the news, like a lot of what we use is news articles of the day. So much of it is wrong. So much of it is short-sighted. And it's just like, it's that you literally, you could see it where, okay, all these things that this news article is saying are wrong. Or speculation or whatever, and it's just because they had to fill 500 words that day for the news cycle.
Yeah.
And that's happening exponentially now, because now it's not an article you got to fill, it's 3 hours of television in prime time, right? There's another thing I heard in some podcast fairly recently, and but it was the idea that it was, from what I recall, it was pretty accurately showing that Facebook generally depresses people. That people, on average, just the more they use it was something like the more they were using Facebook, the more depressed they were on average. Just total, showable statistic. And it's an interesting thing, Facebook, in that way, because and it was like the more people were posting on average, the more depressed they were in their lives.
I'm not surprised about that.
Some kind of study like that. So it is interesting. I mean, it does end up making us compare, right? Like,
inherently.
you can't go on Facebook. You can't spend any amount of time on Facebook without that news feed eradicator thing, with actually looking at a news feed without comparing yourself to these people. Like, because you know them all, and they're showing you what they want you to see.
Curated feeds.
And it's virtually guaranteed that their lives are going to look more exciting than yours in that moment.
Yeah.
because you're looking at Facebook.
Well, it's also the fact that because.
So what's the point?
No, because like you also when they're posting is like at their optimal time. So when you
Right.
go on to Facebook, you're seeing all of your friends' perfect moments.
Exactly.
But like you're not even looking, like you're not seeing the aggregate of each person. You're only seeing like you're seeing the best moment from everyone in that day.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, is going to be infuriating because
But only from everyone that wants to show it to you.
exactly that day.
Exactly. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, what ends up happening, like, if I'm on Facebook and I'm looking at everybody's great moments and I'm not enjoying a great moment myself, I'm just going to feel like shit.
Yep.
And that's why I don't like posting also. I think there's some kind of subconscious part of me that realizes that if I'm going through a great moment, I have tons of great photos.
Yeah.
If I post this great photo, then maybe someone that I know is going to look at it and feel like shit about their lives.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I don't post.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's weird, but that's how I see it. And I don't think everybody thinks that way. It's probably
No.
something wrong with me, but
No, I'm with you there. Like I think almost my favorite times to post is like when I'm in the worst place.
that's, I wanted to do that. At one point I was totally going to do that and I didn't, and I kind of regret that I didn't because it was really early on. And I was like, I'm just gonna post all the shitty things that are happening to
Yeah.
me. I feel like there should be like a Facebook movement of that. So I'd love to have a feed that people can look at and feel better about themselves. You know what I mean? Like, great, enjoy. Because I don't give a shit what you think of me.
Yeah, there's definitely Facebook groups for that.
Is there? Yeah, there
yeah,
probably
no,
is.
but again, it's like because I mentioned how I used to daily vlog. The one that did the best was like the one that I was very open about depression, by far. Which is also there's a weird thing where it's like if you are only talking about that, then it's like that's kind of weird because then you're kind of making your content around a horrible thing and like you're not showing the good side, like the flip. But I 100% think it's just because like people don't genuinely talk about the bad, and it's also like because like when we talk about the bad, it's like we have the whole like let's talk. It's sterile. It's like
Yeah.
oh my god, like yeah, I have mental health issues.
Yeah.
Like,
It's kind of thrown out without really
yeah, without any
properly
weight.
being explored.
Yeah, which is a problem I think.
It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem.
Yeah, we've just dehumanized everything.
Yeah.
Everything's a hashtag like Coney 2012.
Yeah, Coney 2012. Yeah, I was just talking about that. It wasn't with you, eh?
No, it wasn't.
I
with me.
brought it up at work, and nobody knew what it was.
No.
I was like, how do you not know what
Oh,
this
that
is?
kills me so much.
Yeah,
It's
because
like,
we were having it. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I won't even
I'm
say
sorry
it
that I
like
wasn't there to help and support this.
Well, there's the idea that like, what makes something highly shareable? Like, why was Coney shareable? Because Coney, in many ways, went against what people would think is shareable because it was highly depressing.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't want to share things that are depressing. So why was Coney shareable?
I think it's the same way that like ALS, like the Ice Bucket Challenge was, where it's like
But that really
depressing.
wasn't depressing. You're watching somebody get dumped with
Yeah,
ice.
but like Coney 2012, like I forget the exact details, but the genesis of it was like, hey, let's kind of just put a spotlight on this terrible thing that's happening.
Right.
And then it got into the whole Coney 2012, which was catchy as a hashtag,
Sure.
and it sprung into action.
Do you know whatever happened to that?
Nothing.
And nothing came of it?
I don't think anything came of it.
Really?
Yeah,
So that guy's still operating
Pretty
and he's
sure.
still, that's messed up.
exactly. That's why the hashtag is even worse. Like the story.
Are you right though? Like I figured
could
the
be
guy, I
wrong,
figured
but-
the guy was stopped after all that. I figured he had to have been stopped. If that guy is still operating, that is crazy.
I think we're gonna have to go and search about this later.
I'm really curious because if he is still operating, I almost want to like go to Vice and tell them, hey, give me a camera and let's go, you and I, let's go, you know what I mean? Let's go
I know.
find him or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like if he's still operating, why would he still be? Yeah, it's weird times. It's weird times. People are definitely very,
Yeah, but it's always been weird times.
no, for sure.
I always go back to
Human
the beginning.
nature.
Not even human nature. Just I love quoting Tale of Two Cities, because the beginning of that book is the perfect encapsulation of everything that's human. So it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was a winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on it being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. So that's why. This is why, like, I think I'm an optimist. Because we've all lived this in a way. It's always like this is just human nature. We don't understand. Like, we can't make a differentiation in superlatives. We have to say it's either it's the most incredible or it's the worst. It's not like, this is kind of just median.
Yes, no, that's absolutely, I agree 100%. I agree 100%, and that's kind of what we're going through now. It's true. It's
backlash.
It's true, and at the same time, like,
scary. It's scary because, like, we haven't lived through it.
Yeah, there's definitely always parts of it that are scary. I don't find it scary per se. I find it interesting to think of it like, what do you think is the point of it all? Right? Like,
I don't think there is any point, and we put the point. Like, we make the meaning that we want to take from it. This is, like, very essential. I think like life is meaningless. Like, we're literally dust in the wind. We're ants. We're nothing, and we give our lives meaning. So
the point of all of this is it
to figure out what we want to make the meaning to be
as individuals.
Yeah.
But what about as a species? What's the point of it?
As a species, I think we have like the survival instinct, and like we want to survive as a species. That's again like when
survival, sure.
That's it. I don't know if there is like anything, if we're at a point as a species where we're thinking collectively as a unit.
You think we'll get there?
I think we will. Again, I think it's going to be assisted by AI because then we get like collective hive mentality. I think we start to see that a little bit with the internet.
Big time.
So
it's very much a hive mentality.
Yeah, maybe this is like the end of individualism.
Maybe.
Which is weird to think about, because it's almost like we're in the hyper individualistic society now compared to what it was, say, 200 years ago, where only the rich had personalities and could be individuals. You're just a number before.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're a hologram. That's what I think.
You go into Elon Musk and
I think we're a hologram.
But is that even if we are, does it make a difference?
It may. It depends. I don't know. It depends who's making the hologram.
No, but like like in my mind, if it is a hologram, like the rules are set for the hologram. So does it make a difference at all? Like, yeah, is there even a distinction to be made between base reality and hologram reality? Or is it just like pointless?
Pointless. Yeah. Absolutely pointless.
That's content complete.
Bright note.
That's complete nihilism.
Nothing matters. Exactly. Nothing
God
matters.
is dead. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's interesting to think about like humanity as a sort of like there is some kind of collective journey that we're on. I think. I definitely think so. I think that we're in the adolescent phase of it. I think, like, for example, the perfection of information is a huge step in that direction of more maturity, Like when we're done with, for example, when space doesn't matter anymore, there won't be war, and then that'll be another step in the right direction, when food is ubiquitous, then we don't have to eat. We have to worry about eating you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like life extension, for example. If we actually defeat aging and live forever, then time stops mattering, and then it's like kind of like what we've already done to information. Are we gods? I mean,
by all definition, if you can extend your life, you never die. You don't have to worry about food, shelter, anything. They're gods. I was thinking that's a really sad existence.
You think that's a sad existence?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't extend age? You wouldn't extend life indefinitely if you could?
Because what's the beauty of that?
No, I disagree completely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because what's the point of living at that point then?
Do you think that you would not want to live because you could live forever?
No, I 100% would take it, but I think it would be a flawed existence.
Why? What would be so flawed about it? What would be any different than what we have now?
Because what would taste sweet anymore? Because there would be a point where you've tried everything.
What would there be
I
a
think
point?
So.
Really? Do you know how long you'd have to live
Yeah, but we're talking like really talking about eternal life.
No, we're talking about choosing when to die.
That's different.
Okay, well that's what we're talking about. I mean, you can still end your life, for sure. I see what you're saying. No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not suggesting. No. I don't even know how that would even be possible, to make it impossible to die.
Oh, you just put yourself onto like you map your brain onto like a computer system, and that computer system just continues.
You should still at some point be able to shut yourself down, right? If you wanted to.
Are you allowed to in that system?
Okay.
Choosing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
But it's also this is why I'm an atheist, and I'm like the idea of like, oh yeah, you know, you die and then like you go to heaven. It's like that. It's like, and then you have an eternity. Eternity, just in my mind, is incomprehensible, but it's also just. Like,
but eternity is there regardless. Like, you are going to have an eternity already. Absolutely. Like.
Me in what sense?
The you that is there when you close your eyes and stop thinking is going to have an eternity. Okay? The thing is, you just don't know what that's going to be like. But it's there. It's there when you do it now. It's there if you close your eyes and shut off your brain. If you probably, like, there are monks that do that for their whole lives just to experience what it is to be in that state of eternity. Right?
I don't know if I'd call that eternity, but
well, anyways, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what else you would call it. What you're doing is you're shutting down your consciousness, right? You're just, so isn't that what happens when you die? I mean, it's the same thing.
I don't know. I prescribe to the idea like when you die, you're just gone.
Right. Exactly. Which is exactly where you are when you do that. You don't have a thought. You can't see anything. There's nothing. That's why there's a guy that can sit in the middle of a street in Saigon and protest by burning himself to death. Because for him, there is no difference between that state and the state after, right? So, yeah, I don't know how we got onto that, but it's eternity. So
yeah, we did.
I think you have that eternity regardless. So for me, I'd love to be able to have a conscious eternity as long as possible, or a conscious existence until I'm sick of it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know that you'd run out of experiences, but.
I don't know, yeah. That is our show this week. We were produced by me. We were edited and filmed by Robin Loom. Our music is by Ashmeta, and our logo is by Isabel Lee. Thank you to Eric. This was an incredible conversation, and I'm sure one of many more to come in deep. And yeah, thank you to our sponsor, Ether Kombucha. We love you as always, and till next week, have a good one.